Chapter 1339. Due to the sheer number of mages in the Cult King Academy, it was almost impossible to kill them all. The battle quickly fell into a stalemate. The three forces felt helpless. They could only set up a defensive barrier and stay inside for the time being. Is there something wrong with that guy? Hyudo Issei said impatiently. Even though the entire Cult King Academy was surrounded by a large barrier, he was still very upset. Being in the same space as White Dragon Emperor Wally, Hyudo Issei felt like he had met his natural enemy. It was as if he could lose his life in the next second. No matter who it was, they would feel uncomfortable, especially when they were surrounded in this space. He might lose his life at any moment. These people are not simple. White Dragon Emperor Wally glanced at the leaders of the three forces silently. He frowned a few times and looked a little serious. Archangel Michael, Sazax, Seraphil, and Athasher were all releasing their magic power to set up a large barrier to protect the Cult King Academy. We have to fight back. It's too passive to just wait like this. Looking at the increasing number of mages in the sky, Sazax finally lost his cool. Archangel Michael and the others nodded silently. But there's nothing we can do about it. Athasher shrugged and said unhappily, "This academy takes up a lot of space. Only the four of us can maintain this barrier to protect it. If one of us is missing, what happens if one of us is missing?" The ghost's ghostly voice resounded behind him. Asashel turned around and retaliated with a ferocious punch. Bam bam bam. Caught off guard, Athasher was sent flying. His magic power was also stopped, and a gap appeared in the barrier. Boom boom boom. The mages were like stray cats that smelled blood. They kept attacking the gap, and the gap on the barrier was getting bigger and bigger. What do you mean? Riaz and the others glared at White Dragon Emperor Wally with unfriendly looks. What do I mean? Don't you understand? White Dragon Emperor Wally said casually. At the same time, he also entered the tentacle state of the divine artifact. I actually know about the plan that you guys are talking about. I'm even one of the participants and one of the planners. However, something happened during that time, and my other accomplice hasn't appeared yet. White Dragon Emperor Wally looked at the sky, his face filled with confusion. You, Archangel, Sazax and Seraph's expressions changed as they waited for Wally. At this moment, they could only maintain the barrier and couldn't leave. Ouch ouch ouch. Looks like I'm getting old. Asashel, who had crawled out of the ruins, was covered in snow. It was not hard to see how painful Wally's punch was, as expected of the governor of the fallen angels. Seeing this, Varley was not surprised. After all, he was the governor of the fallen angels, and he could not be killed with one punch. Before we fight, I want to ask you a question. Brushing off the dust on his body, Asashel asked seriously. My deputy chief inspector found an organization hidden in the three major forces. I think it's called Calamity Mass, and the leader of this organization is the infinite dragon god Orpheus. What is the connection between the people who attacked us and Calamity Mass? The infinite dragon god Orpheus. This name was like a taboo. Those who knew her had a drastic change in expression and showed fear. Even someone as strong as Sazax showed a cautious expression. The infinite dragon god Orpheus was an enemy that even gods feared. It's not just a connection. The people who attacked you this time belong to the faction of the old Demon King. Orpheus himself also participated. That guy might be dead already. White Dragon Emperor Wally laughed eerily. The person he was talking about was naturally dustless. As for why I participated, with a teasing look in his eyes, Wally flapped his wings, and suddenly countless black wings appeared. My name is Wally Lucifer. These words were like a level 10 storm, and Wally's brand new attitude made everyone dizzy. Their brains stopped working for a moment, and they were shocked. Wally Lucifer also indirectly meant that he inherited the Demon King's bloodline, and could be regarded as part of the old Demon King's faction. This guy is definitely the strongest White Dragon Emperor in history. Asashel said in a heavy tone, full of worries about the future. Perhaps the word miracle was born for me. White Dragon Emperor Wally's expression was arrogant. At the same time, he had the bloodline of the Demon King and one of the strongest god's destruction tools. He indeed had the capital to be arrogant. As long as this barrier can't hold, you guys will be finished sooner or later. The next one is White Dragon Emperor. Wally's gaze turned and stared at Sazax, Archangel Michael, and Seraphil. His gaze finally landed on Seraphil. You'll be eliminated first. After saying that, Wally swooped down. Seraphil, who was trying her best to stabilize the barrier, looked terrible. She couldn't free herself to deal with Wally at the moment. She could only watch as White Dragon Emperor attacked, her eyes filled with despair. Boom, boom, boom. A sharp roar resounded throughout the world. And then a golden beam of light descended from the sky. The moment Wally was about to touch Seraphil, the golden light shrouded him. Get away from me, big white lizard. The powerful light wave turned into a powerful impact, forcing the aggressive White Dragon Emperor to retreat. You're just a loser. I don't know where you get your confidence from. Don't you think so, White Lizard? Chapter 1340. Within the beam of light, a large number of photons condensed and compressed, turning into a figure that everyone was familiar with. Impossible, you should have been killed by Orpheus. How come nothing happened to you? Wally was no longer as arrogant as before, and his voice was several times louder, sounding a little harsh. Hearing that, Dustless dug his ears and pretended to be disgusted. You are not a eunuch. Why are you shouting like that? Do you have some kind of special fetish? After that, Dustless purposely kept a distance from Wally. Hearing that, Wally's handsome face swelled, as if it was about to explode, and his face turned red. Being with this guy really makes me angry every time. Wally's face was green with anger, and the veins on his forehead were popping. If it were not for the fact that he still had many questions for Dustless to answer, he would have rushed up and fought him. The companion you were talking about is this guy? The void suddenly twisted, and a woman with wheat-colored skin fell out, covered in blood, and there was an obvious dent in her abdomen. Just by looking at it, one could tell that she was in a terrible state. Of course, there was also a blonde boy dressed in female clothing, who looked a little pale. He was one of Riaz's dependents, Gasper. What's this guy's name again? Dustless scratched his head with a headache, and could not think of anything for a long time. Oh yeah, I remember she said something about inheriting Leviathan blood or something. After Dustless said that, Seraphil's face suddenly became unnatural. Not only Sazax, but she who was the Leviathan, was also the new Demon King. You bastard, there's no way you could escape from Orpheus. I know her strength. You must have used some dirty tricks. Wally looked as if he had seen through everything. In your world, the infinite dragon god Orpheus is invincible. But I'm sorry, it's a fact that I came back safe and sound, and it doesn't matter if it was a trick or not. Dustless did not explain the matter between him and Orpheus. The dormant energy in his body surged as he smirked. Since I'm back, you're in for it. Hearing these words, Wally, who was already unhappy with Dustless, clenched his fists even harder. Dustless' tone made Wally particularly uncomfortable. Before you talk big, you'd better take a look at your surroundings, Wally said in a sarcastic tone with a hint of schadenfreude. In the sky, a dense swarm of magicians had already surrounded them. There are so many of them, several times more than before. Riaz, Junai, and the others were having a headache, especially Riaz's family. They all spread their wings, intending to fly into the sky to support Dustless. I didn't expect you to be so charming that someone would be willing to go to hell with you. Wally curled his lips and said disdainfully, Quantity, do you think numbers alone can change anything? Dustless could not help but laugh. He could only secretly judge the White Dragon Emperor Wally's shallow knowledge and narrow vision. This guy always thought that if he could not do something, others could not do it. This idea was really childish and idiotic. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The night was pervasive. Dustless's body floated out bursts of golden light. It was completely different from the previous photons. It was another kind of energy. It was also different from the holiness of the glint fruit just now. This energy wave was abnormally evil. What a strange thing. Sazax and the others locked their eyes on Dustless, who was floating in the sky. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Everyone looked at Dustless in confusion. Even the large group of magicians who were attacking him stopped. The materialized light and shadow on his body changed dramatically, turning into a monster that looked like a human, but not a human. It was an incomplete miniature double-faced Kinsusinu, and it also made a hand seal with Dustless. A very dangerous halo radiated from his body. Dustless said expressionlessly, Tianjie Xing. Then he removed the Kinsusinu and quietly looked down at Wally. Nothing happened. Is he trying to scare us? Or are you trying to scare me? After a few seconds of silence, White Dragon Emperor Wally looked around and did not find anything special. Is he really trying to scare us? Riaz, Zhu Nai, and the other students of the Supernatural Research Department were confused. That's not right. Sazak suddenly spoke. There was a rare touch of emotion in his voice. Look at the sky. Look carefully. Look with your heart. Because it was night, Riaz and the others did not notice the slowly falling meteor, but Sazak and the others clearly saw it. Riaz and the others looked at the sky. The White Dragon Emperor himself was no exception. Oh my God! A Sashal stood up excitedly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his heart was beating violently. It seemed like his H*PS were about to jump out. The strongest White Dragon Emperor in history had just arrived. And now the most monstrous human in history had appeared. Was the end of the world. That's a meteor? He can summon a meteor? And such a big one at that? The end of the world is really here. The breasts of Riaz and the others rose and fell like waves. She was panting heavily, so her cleavage swayed even more. That heavy ball of flesh was about to burst out of her clothes. That was not a meteor, it was a natural disaster sent down by the wrath of some god. A bunch of idiots, what are you standing there for? Do you all want to die? Shoot him down. Wally yelled when he saw that the magicians were collectively petrified and did not move. His heart was cold and desperate. If he was hit by that thing, forget about defeating the Great Red. His future would only be a dead end to hell. Chapter 1341. What kind of person could summon meteorites to destroy living beings? Demons could not do it, fallen angels could not do it, and the same went for angels. Mere humans could not do it, and even some people who claim to be gods could do it. As expected of the person I value, his potential is indeed unlimited. The elegant girl was sitting in the void. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and there was a faint smile on her face, which was a rare sight. This person was the infinite dragon god Orpheus. She was not in a hurry to leave. With the intention of understanding more about Dustless, Orpheus quietly looked at the distant horizon. She was about 10 kilometers away from the center of the battle between Dustless and the others. However, what shocked Orpheus was that even though she was so far away, the falling meteorites still included her in the attack range. As a result, Orpheus had no choice but to retreat again. What a mysterious person. There doesn't seem to be such a person in this world. Ever since Dustless left, Orpheus began to think about Dustless's background. After all, this guy was unreliable. It refreshed Orpheus' belief that the Great Red was the best in the world. I'm really looking forward to what kind of sparks will be created between you and the Great Red. After taking a deep look at Dustless, Orpheus finally disappeared into the dark night sky. Boom, boom, boom. Realizing the existence of the meteorites, the magicians worked hard to bombard them. Thousands of energy gathered together and blasted on the meteorites. Ka. However, the effect was not complementary. Only a small number of meteorite fragments fell off. It was no different from a fool's dream to destroy the entire meteorite. Feel despair. His eyes were emotionless. Dustless instantly transformed into the Grim Reaper. The meteorite above his head was the sharp scythe that slaughtered all living beings. No, I can't just sit here and wait for death. My dream has not been realized yet. I can't be buried in this godforsaken place. White Dragon Emperor Wally's eyes flashed with madness. His body exuded an abnormal energy wave. I awakened as the second heavenly dragon, deprived of everything. The body envies the infinite, the heart seeks dreams. I, the overbearing white dragon, invite thou to enter the limits of stainless. After a series of incantations, Wally's posture also changed dramatically. His body became larger, and his magic power increased sharply. Before, he was only a human wearing armor. Now there were 2 traces of a dragon's aura. Ao ao ao. Dragon roars resounded through the sky. White Dragon Emperor Wally's new stance stunned everyone. What's that? This feeling is really unpleasant. Issei was sweating profusely. The stronger White Dragon King Wally was, the more uncomfortable he felt. It wasn't that he was jealous of Wally. It was just that the stronger White Dragon King Wally was, the more pressure he felt. That guy is really a genius. He can use Tyrant Dragon mode so quickly. Asashel was right. Wally Lucifer is indeed the strongest White Dragon Emperor in history. The Red Dragon Emperor said with a hint of envy in his tone. His old rival's host was so powerful, and the second one was his host. Regarding this, D-Leg could only chuckle. In this state, he has godlike strength. Drake said softly. Gulp. Godlike strength. Are you sure? Issei asked excitedly. His eyes were burning with flames as if he could see himself becoming a god one day and flirting with all the girls in the world. Of course, as long as you work hard, you can also enter that mode, Drake said with certainty. After entering Tyrannosaurus mode, not only will you have godlike strength, you can also. Drake said in an extremely confident tone. Boom, boom, boom. The sudden commotion interrupted Drake's speech. Destructive light beams covered Wally, who was in Tyrant Dragon mode, and fell mercilessly. Crack, crack, crack. A crisp sound came from the Tyrant Dragon's indestructible defense. What's going on? Didn't they say that Tyrant Dragon mode has godlike strength? Hyodo Issei rubbed his eyes and asked. When he looked closer, he saw Wally's head being stepped on by Dustless. Tyrannosaurus's extraordinary silver body was also faintly blackened. It was obvious that he had been badly burned. It's just a big lizard. What are you screaming for? Dustless looked down at White Dragon Emperor Wally and asked calmly. It's night now. Didn't your family teach you to be quiet when others are sleeping? Roar. Roar. White Dragon Emperor Wally screamed as if he was protesting against Dustless, but he was ignored. Is this what you mean by godlike strength? It's as simple as whack-a-mole. Issei's mouth twitched as he questioned Drake. If that's godlike strength, doesn't that mean Dustless can easily kill a god? This is an accident. That guy named Dustless can't be counted. He's a special case. Just like the computer games you humans often play, there are always all kinds of overpowered bugs. That guy is a bug in this world, so he's an unstable factor, and must be excluded. Drake retorted with a red face. His dragon face was burning, and he was extremely depressed. He had just finished speaking, and Dustless came to slap him in the face. The speed of the slap was too fast. But this guy is really sick. I might not be able to defeat him even when I'm at my peak. Red Dragon Emperor Drake's tone was filled with fear. In his heart, he had already classified Dustless as the Great One, real Red Dragon Emperor, and the infinite dragon god Orpheus. Chapter 1342. It was no wonder that the Red Dragon Emperor Delegu had such an unrealistic idea. After all, Wuchen was so powerful. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Hyodo Issei asked curiously, Drake, is this guy like the legends? Is he the reincarnation of a god? The rumor of Dustless is the reincarnation of a god had already spread in the demon realm. Hearing this, Drake fell silent. His huge dragon eyes were filled with doubt as he said blankly, to be fair, I once had the same idea, but the gods of all mythological systems are not as good as him. Gods are not as good as him? Hyodo Issei's hair stood on end, and his tone became a few notches higher. Gods. What's that? Hearing this, Drager showed a look of disdain and replied disapprovingly. A mere deity is nothing. I can tell you that when I was at my peak, the White Dragon Emperor Arubian and I were both above the gods. A mere deity is not worthy of being in the Hall of Elegance. Drake's tone was extremely arrogant, filled with pride and arrogance. Then between you and Dustless, who's stronger? Hyodo Issei blinked with interest. Hearing this, Drake paused for a moment before he said with certainty, he's just a little bit stronger than me. Remember, just a little bit, like a grain of sand. At this moment, In another direction. Impossible, I've already entered Tyrant Dragon mode. How can I still not be your match? Even the result is the same. It's one thing to lose in Forbidden mode, but why did I still lose in Tyrant Dragon mode? It should be. Because you're too weak. Hearing this, Dustless spoke, shattering White Dragon Emperor Wally's confidence as he said softly, I never said that I used all my strength when I fought you, Wally. You, hearing this, White Dragon Emperor Wally was so angry that he trembled. He felt extremely wronged. In the past, he naively thought that he could easily defeat Dustless with Forbidden mode. He did not expect that he would still be defeated with Tyrant Dragon mode. I will not lose so easily. White Dragon Emperor Wally struggled in his death throes. Enraged, he erupted with powerful energy fluctuations and miraculously forced Dustless to retreat. What a strange item. Dustless frowned as he stared at White Dragon Emperor Wally. The White Dragon Emperor's light wings and the Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet both had the same characteristic. The more emotional the host was, the more power they could unleash. Right now, Wally seemed to be learning from Hyoto Issei. Ao. White Dragon Emperor Wally's power gradually increased, almost multiplying. Because the light on his body was too obvious. It felt like it was daytime even though it was night. How boring. Dustless shook his head in boredom. His patience gradually disappeared. He planned to persuade White Dragon Emperor Wally to get out of here, so as to avoid humiliating himself. However, a thick beam of light whizzed over. Hurry up and leave. If we are defeated, we will also be affected. Sazax and the others hurriedly dodged the attack. If they were hit, they wouldn't feel good either. What do we do about Dustless? Riaz asked worriedly. 2 wings extended from her back, and she was about to fly over. Come back, Riaz. Gulifia pulled the anxious Riaz back and smiled bitterly. If that guy is really killed, it means the end of the world. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. White Dragon Emperor Wally's furious attack could destroy heaven and earth. An extremely thick silver light swept over. I don't expect to defeat you, but at least show some fear. White Dragon Emperor Wally said dumbly. He didn't expect to defeat Dustless either. He only hoped to regain some face. But he was destined to be disappointed. Wuchen looked at the incoming light expressionlessly. There was no extra emotion on his face. Not only was he not afraid, but his kind black eyes were also filled with anticipation. Boom boom boom. The light bombarded Dustless with full force. The entire world trembled with the shockwave of the explosion. Even the sky was distorted. Is he dead? Everyone looked towards where Dustless was, their faces filled with curiosity. But the next second, they were all stunned. His expression was normal, and his black eyes didn't change at all. He was still as relaxed as before. Not to mention being injured, Dustless's clothes were still very clean. This is your swan song? Not bad, I guess. Dustless gave him a look of appreciation. When he opened Consusanu, there were actually some small cracks. It was already commendable for Wally to be able to do this. Not bad. Hearing this, Wally's face darkened. He cursed in his heart. This was too much of a blow. Now it's my turn to fight back, young man. Dustless tilted his head, thinking about how to deal with Wally. After a while, he extended his thumb, and a blue energy ball appeared. Wang Su's flash. The golden sphere whizzed out, and the places it passed by exploded one after another. They were easily torn apart. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. It was extremely fast. The moment it flew out, it approached Wally and exploded violently. Boom boom boom. The golden light spread to Wally. His indestructible armor was like an iron sheet being melted layer by layer. It couldn't withstand a single blow. Wait and see. White Dragon Emperor Wally fiercely glared at Dustless. Realizing that it was not enough, he could only flee in a sorry state. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. Staying behind would only bring shame upon himself. Chapter 1343. Dustless was not surprised that White Dragon Emperor Wally was defeated. Unless he wanted to stay and die, running away was his only choice. There was no other way. You let him go just like that. Riaz and the others from the Paranormal Research Department surrounded Dustless. They looked at the White Dragon Emperor Wally, who was running away in disgrace. I have no feud with him. Why would I kill him? Dustless asked in return, full of confidence. Even if the Taishang comes again, I can easily defeat him, and I don't think he can be my enemy anymore. Why? Riaz and the others asked blankly, all looking at Dustless. This guy was too mysterious, and they could not wait to find out how many secrets he had. Intuition. Dustless shrugged and said casually. Hearing that, the group of girls immediately rolled their eyes, secretly cursing Dustless for talking nonsense. Damn it! This was also the base camp of Wally's gang in the mysterious dimensional world. What do you think, Wally? The infinite dragon god Orpheus appeared without anyone noticing. Her beautiful eyes stared at the battered and injured Wally, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. You came at the right time. Why didn't you stop him? It's the first time in my life that I've been beaten so badly. It's the first time I've suffered such a big loss. Wally was furious, and his temper was extremely bad. After the battle with Dustless, the confidence that he had painstakingly accumulated over the years was shattered. Sigh. The infinite dragon god Orpheus also sighed softly, which was rare, and said in a tone that was within her power, I tried to control that guy, but I failed. All in all, it's not a loss for you to lose to him. If I were to fight him, I might not even have a chance of winning. If this was said by Dustless, Wally could immediately laugh it off as a joke. However, since it was said by Orpheus herself, he had to consider it carefully. Is he really that terrifying? Wally took a deep breath. Even though he had a deep understanding of Dustless's strength, he still felt that it was impossible for him to defeat Orpheus. After all, she had unlimited power. I have limitless power, but so can others. A strange look flashed across Orpheus' cute little face as he waved his hand in an imposing manner and said in a dignified tone, Anyway, he's not our enemy yet. I'm confident that with a little effort, I can turn him into a teammate in the trench. Remember, he's a potential ally. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. I'm so sorry, Dustless Cohen. In the dimly lit room, a gentle and apologetic voice sounded. Dustless, Genova, Wisteria, Rena, and the other person who spoke just now, Archangel Michael. It's fine. I'm bored anyway. I can use this opportunity to skip school. That way, Riaz won't have anything to say. Dustless waved his hand, his face full of generosity. Listening to his teacher's lecture, he felt like his head was about to explode. I've already told you before that I'm going to leave Genova and Wisteria Rena at your place to train. I have no choice but to disturb you. To express my apologies, please accept this. A mighty lightsaber appeared in Michael's hand, exuding an indescribable aura. It was unusually cold. When they looked at each other, their eyes felt a slight burning sensation. This is Ascalon with the Dragon Slayer sword. If you don't mind, please accept it. With that, the beautifully shaped Dragon Slayer sword in Michael's hand floated to Dustless. In other words, this is a reward? Dustless glanced at it and asked. In the end, it was still a subordinate. So be it. I'd be an idiot if I didn't take advantage of it. You're right. I'll leave the two of them to you from now on. Seeing that Dustless had Ascalon as his subordinate, Michael let out a sigh of relief. If Dustless wanted to send Genova and Wisteria Rena back to him in the future, he would definitely be embarrassed. This was also a good way to build a good relationship with Dustless, who had great potential. He even ordered Genova and Wisteria Rena to have a breakthrough relationship with Dustless. That way, when Dustless rose in the future, the angels who were gradually declining would also be able to benefit. It would be best if they could take advantage of the situation to rise up. He even planned the marriage between the two girls and Dustless. After all, he was a pure human, so there was nothing wrong with it. Archangel Michael really put in a lot of effort. Don't worry. I'll definitely train the two of them until they become famous figures in the world. Dustless patted his chest and promised. Although he knew Michael's plan, he had no intention of rejecting it. In fact, this was indeed a small matter for Dustless. Besides, Dustless had a good impression of the two girls. Although his swordsmanship was average, Dustless had seen many swordsmanship masters, such as Hawkeye and Red Hair Shanks. He still remembered their swordsmanship in his head. He could definitely teach them to Genova and Wisteria Rena. I've said what I wanted to say. Goodbye. After saying that, Michael's body emitted a warm light that dissipated until it disappeared. Finally, I have some free time. Dustless casually laid down without caring about his image. His eyes were filled with fatigue. When he was about to take a nap, he suddenly realized that his body had become much heavier. His eyes that had just closed opened again. Genova and Rena. How dare you? Why are you two sitting on my body? Get off me. Chapter 1344. Someone inexplicably sat on his body. If it was an ordinary person, Wu Chen would have already smashed him into pieces with a slap. The sudden actions of Genova and Irina really made Dustless confused and abnormally puzzled. You're our master. It's necessary for us to know each other better, Rena said matter-of-factly as she tried to take off Dustless's pants. Hold it, all of you stop. Noticing the loosening of his pants, Dustless quickly called for them to stop. Looking at the two women who were like wolves and tigers, he could not help but wonder what kind of crazy place the church was. Who taught you all this? Dustless asked impatiently as he rolled up his sleeves, as if he was going to beat up the person who taught Genova and Rena bad things. Didn't Master and Riaz come here the same way? Genova asked, confused. That's because, hearing that, Dustless opened his mouth, but found himself speechless. He did not expect Genova to see him being intimate with Riaz. Riaz and I did it because... The reason is not important, I want to have children with Master. Genova said unreasonably as she pounced on Dustless's body and started tearing off his clothes. Rena was no exception. Her eyes were glowing as she stared at Dustless, as if she was looking at a delicacy. Dustless's body made her hungry. There's something wrong with the way they look at me. Noticing the two women's strange behavior, Dustless frowned slightly. Genova and Rena gave off the feeling that they were brainwashed. Dustless immediately thought of a handsome man, Archangel Michael. In order to win me over, that guy might have fed them some bewitching potion. Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was conflicted about Archangel Michael's good intentions. Although this kind of luck was not bad, it came so suddenly that he could not accept it. He had no choice but to comfort the two women. I have something to do now. When I'm free, we'll discuss the big problem of having children. Genova and Rena looked at Dustless as if they had been electrocuted. Really? Biting their lips, the two women asked nervously as if they felt that it was impossible. Although I've lied to countless people, I have my principles. I've never lied to women. Dustless said without blushing or panting. When it came to telling lies, it was one after another. Move your faces closer. Wu Chen waved his hand with a gentle smile on his face. Genova and Irina looked at each other. Although they were a little confused, they still came over obediently. Archangel Michael had told them to just follow Dustless's words, as if they were the Lord's orders. Moi. While Genova and Rena were thinking, Dustless attacked decisively. He left his saliva on their faces, and used his mouth to sneak an attack on their delicate faces. However, the two women did not look embarrassed. Instead, their faces were filled with joy and excitement. One of Dustless's thoughts was confirmed. It should be Michael's doing. That's why they're so loyal to me. They really like to poke their nose into other people's business. Are angels also so nosy? Dustless stood up and patted his clothes. After brushing off the dust, he stretched and said, "Let's go home together." Rena and Genova did not have a place to stay. They had to stand with Dustless, so they could only stay in Junai's house. Junai's house was suitable for 2 or 3 people. Once there were more people, it would immediately become crowded. Sazax was thoughtful. In just one night, he had transformed Junai's house into a magnificent villa. He even said that he would send 500 maids over. Riaz, who knew Dustless's personality well, rejected him on the spot. In the end, she only sent Gulifia and a few other servants to take care of Dustless and the rest. This is the privilege of the strong. As long as you're strong enough, you can have anything you want. Under the setting sun, the golden villa looked like it was plated with a layer of gold. It was beautiful. The surroundings were elegant, and the scenery was refreshing. It was like a paradise. Dustless stood in front of the villa. Beside him were Gulifia and the other maids. That bastard Sazax sent his wife here as a servant. Dustless's mouth twitched. While Gulifia was one of the maids, and this was her job, sending his wife to take care of his future brother-in-law was something that Dustless admired. Demons sure are powerful. In the human world, a villa like this would take at least a few years, or even a decade, to complete. Dustless sat down leisurely. Gulifia and the other maids immediately crowded around him, and skillfully brewed a fragrant afternoon tea for him. Have a seat, Gulifia. If I'm sitting alone, it'll be too much of a nuisance if all of you stand and look at me. Dustless pointed at an empty seat beside him. However, Gulifia shook her head resolutely and said in a cold professional tone, Lord Dustless, please conduct yourself with dignity. It's my working hours now. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing that, Dustless spat out all the tea he was drinking. Looking up at the slender and expressionless Gulifia with interest, Dustless did not expect her to call him Lord. Moreover, Gulifia was the Demon King's wife. What an untactful woman. Shaking his head, Dustless did not want to waste any more words with Gulifia. The world of demons. No, the entire world was like that. There was a saying that could be used to describe it. When a man gets to the top, even his chickens and dogs get to the top. Please wait for a moment, I'll go make some preparations. Seeing that Dustless and the rest had agreed, Gulifia began to prepare the items for their journey. On the way to the underworld, Dustless stared blankly at the scenery outside in a luxurious carriage exclusive to the Gimli family. Gulifia stood beside Dustless like a guardian deity. Don't always follow me, Gulifia. I have nothing to do now, so go rest. Dustless waved his hand impatiently. At first, it felt good to be protected by Gulifia, but as time went on, Dustless could not accept it. She even followed Dustless to the point where she peed and peed. This is my responsibility, please don't make things difficult for me. Gulifia opened her mouth and indirectly rejected Dustless. This trip to the underworld is not just for training, right? I believe there are other issues. After a while, Dustless suddenly asked Gulifia. Gulifia frowned and remembered that Dustless was no longer the same as before. She gritted her teeth and said, This time, 3 factions have gathered in the underworld. And they have also invited the main god of the Norse mythology, Odin. At this point, Gulifia paused. Her meaning was self-evident. In order to deal with the threat of the Calamity Cluster, the demons, fallen angels, and angels had set their sights on the other factions. The Norse mythology was one of them. They're just looking for some random people to use as cover. Dustless curled his lips and said disdainfully. At the same time, he vaguely understood Sazax's purpose. He said proudly, apart from training, Sazax also wants me, your brother-in-law, to come and hold the fort, right? Gulifia was silent for a while before nodding. This time, they were indeed using Dustless's power. After all, the main god of the Norse mythology had come this time. If they did not bring out some powerful characters, Sazax would feel embarrassed. Dustless was one of the best choices. Then you have to be careful. Don't fail miserably. Dustless reminded her in a friendly manner. He remembered that when Odin agreed to the alliance, an evil god called Loki came out to mess things up, causing a series of troubles later. Will someone come out to mess things up? Gulifia's gem-like clear eyes glowed with wisdom. She was also a smart person and understood Dustless's meaning after a short thought. Chapter 1346. Dustless nodded seriously. Not only did the evil god Loki come out to mess things up, but he was also inextricably linked to Calamity. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Dustless. I will definitely inform Lord Sazax. Gulifia bowed and thanked him seriously. Forget about the verbal thanks. I need physical comfort. How about this, when we get back to the Gimli family, you can help me take a bath. Dustless smirked and winked at Gulifia. He didn't stop until her face turned red from teasing. In your dreams, Gulifia said rudely. At the same time, she tried to find a trace of disappointment on Dustless's face. No reaction. This guy was just messing with me. Gulifia whispered. Dustless just looked at the scenery outside the train quietly. He didn't show any disappointment or sadness. Clearly, he was just messing with Gilifia. On the contrary, Gilifia felt a sense of loss in her heart. Space distorted? Dustless was surprised. The world in his eyes changed drastically, as if he had fallen into a space-time tunnel. Dustless felt something unusual. He also vaguely saw the others in the supernatural research lab. Buzz! At this moment, the world in front of Dustless suddenly lit up with a huge white light. A cold aura swept over, and his feet stepped on the ground. What is this place? In an unfamiliar environment, Zhu Nai and the others exclaimed. Everyone's line of sight looked at Wu Chun at the same time. He had already become the deputy minister in name and in reality. It's probably a test made by some bored guy. Everyone relax. There's no need to be nervous. Dustless shrugged and said nonchalantly. Boom. At the same time, the mountain behind them shook violently. Then it exploded under the powerful force. A crimson monster suddenly appeared. It had an extremely powerful aura, and was covered in thick, hideous scales. What a huge lizard! Dustless exclaimed after seeing this huge monster. Roar. To his surprise, the monster Dustless was staring at let out an earth-shattering roar. I'm a dragon. Oh, so it's really a dragon. No wonder I felt it was similar to the white dragon Emperor Wali. Dustless smiled and scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Everyone couldn't help but laugh when they heard that. The Crimson Dragon, on the other hand, was fuming with rage. He sincerely felt that he was being looked down upon by Wu Chun. Especially that contemptuous gaze. How was he looking at the great dragon race? Instead, he was looking at a weak lizard. It felt like its dignity was being trampled on. Boom. A blazing pillar of flames engulfed the dragon's mouth, instantly pulling Dustless into the sea of flames. Dustless' figure disappeared. Brat, this is the consequence of offending and humiliating me. Looking at Dustless, who was burned to ashes, the dragon suddenly appeared and said. Then its huge eyes turned towards Zhu Nai and the others, revealing a look of devastation. I say, you can't be thinking that you can eliminate me with such a shallow move, right? Light appeared out of thin air and slowly condensed into Dustless's body. Looking at the huge lizard that was full of flaws, Dustless raised his hand and mercilessly kicked it. Light speed kick. A straight flash whizzed out. Although it was aware of the danger, it had already dodged quickly. However, no matter how fast it was not worth mentioning compared to Light. It was inevitable that it would suffer a great loss in the end. Boom, boom, boom. The crimson lizard's head exploded with a blinding flash. The powerful explosion flattened the surrounding ground. The lizard was also blasted back. Its body smashed into the thick mountain before it could stop. The defense of this kind of scale armor is not bad. Dustless nodded secretly. The light speed kick only caused a shock to him, but it did not really hurt the dragon. Although calling them the Dragon Clan is suspicious of them using their connections to intimidate others, they are indeed very capable to be called the strongest clan in the world. Being able to offset most of the power of the light speed kick, it could be seen that the dragon race was not ordinary. It was impossible for an ordinary person to break through those thick scales. What a powerful strength. If it was not for the problem of my body, I would have been hit by his attack. Even so, his pure strength is extraordinary. The Crimson Dragon's head was still burning with flames, but it was safe and sound. Just as Dustless had guessed, most of the attacks it received were blocked by the scales on the outer layer of its skin. However, the defense of the scales was not omnipotent. Looking closely, the center of the area that was hit by Dustless's attack was deeply dented and turned into scrap metal. The next time it received the same attack, it would be beaten up. You are very strong. Remember my name. I am Demon Dragon Tanny, reincarnated from a demon. The huge dragon eyes focused on Dustless and could not move. Tanny had already forgotten the mission that he was suddenly asked to do. His eyes were like torches as he looked down at Dustless. His battle intent was overflowing. The minister is not here for the time being. Everyone work together and listen to my command. Zhu Nai showed the spirit of a deputy minister. 2 huge wings extended from his back, and he flew into the sky. His phoenix eyes looked down at Demon Dragon Tanny fearlessly. What an eyesore, little demon girl. Demon Dragon Tanny said unhappily. Being looked down at by a weak person, he could not vent his anger. He opened his mouth and spat out a thick pillar of fire. However, Dustless instantly appeared in front of the pillar of fire. Chapter 1347. Dustless floated in the sky, quietly blocking the paint on the wall. He was like a majestic mountain, like a natural barrier that was impossible to cross. Trying to hurt my Junai in front of me, little lizard, you've got guts. Dustless said faintly. He almost said my wife wrongly, but he quickly changed his words when he realized that something was wrong. You're just a firefly, and you want to compete with the moon? You're asking for humiliation. Staring at the thick fire pillar that was coming at him, Dustless's eyes changed rapidly, vaguely flickering with black flames. His gaze focused on the incoming fire pillar. Amaterasu. The black netherworld descended from the sky, and without any time to react, it devoured and destroyed Demon Dragon Tanny's fire pillar at lightning speed. It had only been a few seconds from start to finish. Black flames. Demon Dragon Tanny, who was stunned, was shocked, and the way he looked at Dustless also changed. You're really strong, you're qualified to fight with me, puny guy. Demon Dragon Tanny's muscular wings flapped gently, and his huge body ignored the existence of gravity. He walked in the sky like a migratory bird, stopped in the clouds, and looked down at Dustless, who was abnormally tiny on the ground. Puny? You're right, you're really puny. Dustless sneered. His body was like a flood dam. An endless chakra gushed out. A giant that could destroy heaven and earth was instantly formed. He wore a Tengu helmet on his head, and a simple and heavy samurai suit on his body. There were 2 long swords that could shatter the world at his waist, and it made one scalp tingle. The golden giant stood between heaven and earth. Dustless was instantly as dazzling as the sun, and everyone couldn't move their eyes away from him, staring at him in a daze. His height of a few hundred meters was despairing. Even if one ignored the giant's strength, just his height alone was enough to make one tremble in fear. At first, Demon Dragon Tanny, who was soaring in the sky, looked down at Dustless, but now he was just wandering around the waist of Dustless's complete body. Kinsusanu. Gulp. The students of the Paranormal Research Department stared at the towering giant in awe. Due to its ridiculous height, it even blocked out the sun. The sunlight was replaced by Dustless's complete Kinsusanu. Golden light sprinkled down, but what shot down was not the warm sunlight, but the light of destruction that could destroy the world. Is he trying to get rid of us as well? This kind of colossus can cause landslides and cracks the earth with just a slight movement. The tremors might even be able to trample us to death. Issei Hyuga said gloomily. Usually he did not like Wu Chen. He was not envious of Wu Chen's strength, but he was jealous of his harem. Don't worry, Dustless' classmate wouldn't do that kind of thing. Shiba Yuto said with a smile. However, he was also frightened by this monster. A height of 100 meters was enough to suppress the sky. Maybe it was just like what Hyoto Issei had said. Maybe Wu Chen had mistaken them for insects and trampled them to death. Let's retreat. We will only be a hindrance if we stay here. Junai had no choice but to give the order and leave the battlefield to the 2 colossi. Hey, Pocket Dragon, do you still think you're big this time? Are you as big as my complete body, Kinsusanu? If you think you're small enough, I can make him bigger. Dustless asked jokingly. Kinsusanu's height would be increased again by incorporating other abilities such as immortal arts. Looking down at Demon Dragon Tanny, who was flying around, Dustless had a teasing expression on his face. He hooked his finger at him, and the meaning was self-evident. It's just an empty shell. Demon Dragon Tanny retorted with a red face. His red old face became even redder. He was disgusted by Dustless. Dustless was just a tiny grain of sand a moment ago. Now he had transformed into an ancient godlike existence, and Demon Dragon Tanny had become a baby in his eyes. Demon Dragon Tanny was gloomy. This thing is just an empty shell. I can kill it in one hit. Demon Dragon Tanny bared his sawtooth-like fangs, and a huge fireball condensed in his mouth. Seriously, I wanted to train them. How did it turn out like this? On a mountain far away, Asashel and Gulifia were beside Laius. "This is all because you two hid it from him," Gulifia said indifferently. At the same time, she glanced at Asashel from the corner of her eyes. He probably had other plans. He wanted to use the legendary dragon to test Dustlass's strength. Boom boom boom. Thick flames attacked. The huge pillar of fire was only 7 to 8 meters thick. The high density of the flames could even melt diamonds in an instant. Not bad. But Kinsusanu's golden sword was unsheathed from its scabbard. Dustlass controlled the Tachi of light with his mind. Still too weak. Boom boom boom. The tip of the Tachi of light flashed with a flash of sword light. Like a hurricane, it instantly destroyed the incoming pillar of fire and crushed it with an unstoppable force, turning it into sparks that filled the sky. But this was just the beginning. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The unstoppable blade continued forward. It was unstoppable. Even the lazy clouds collapsed on their own. Everything that came into contact with it was destroyed. The range of the attack from the front to the back was actually dozens of kilometers away, and there was an endless gap in the depths of the sky. This state, and this unparalleled attack. It's already surpassed me at my peak. Huta Issei's divine weapon, Drake said numbly. Ordinary dragons were like pocket-sized people in front of Kinsusanu. Only the Great Red could compare. And the most shocking thing was that from Dustlass's tone, this majestic giant seemed to be able to grow bigger. It was not at its peak. Chapter 1348. The power of Kinsusanu perfect form was revealed without a doubt. The 100-meter-tall body looked like the culprit that destroyed the world. The ferocious Tengu armor made people not dare to look at it directly. Being glanced at by those eyes that were bigger than human eyes, they could not help but want to kneel down and submit. Gulp. So powerful. Definitely more powerful than Drake. Demon Dragon Tani choked in shock. Looking at the wound that was about to cut the world in half, he was sure that if he was struck, he would be split into several pieces like paper. Let's test him again. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Demon Dragon Tani made a shocking move. He shot into the sky like a rocket and flew above Dustless perfect form Kinsusanu's head. After circling a few times, he decisively sneak attacked perfect form Kinsusanu's back. A giant like you shouldn't be good at moving. As long as I attack your back, I think even if you have the power to destroy the world, you won't be able to do anything to me. The huge wings flapped, fanning out a violent hurricane. Demon King Danny fell like a meteor with a loud rumble. He opened his mouth and attacked Dustless's back. It seemed like he was planning to use his mouth full of fangs to crush perfect form Kinsusanu. It's a good idea, but it's really childish. Dustless turned his head and glanced at Demon Dragon Tani who was above him. He could see the excitement in his dragon eyes. Perhaps he had fallen into his dream of defeating him. Still not breaking. In the blink of an eye, Demon Dragon Tani approached perfect form Kinsusanu's back. He used all his strength to bite perfect form Kinsusanu. Crack crack crack. A crisp cracking sound suddenly came. Everyone thought that Dustless perfect form Kinsusanu had collapsed. Looking at the source, the result was shocking. The fangs in Demon Dragon Tani's mouth were all shattered like powder. Not bad. It's still too difficult to tear apart Kinsusanu's complete body. Let's stop here. Two thick arms suddenly appeared on the shoulders of the perfect form Kinsusanu. While the Demon Dragon Tani was grimacing in pain, the arms grabbed the legendary dragon like catching a rabbit. Ayo 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 ayo. Feeling that his neck was being grabbed by a giant hand, the demonic dragon Tani struggled with all his might. He shook his body and opened his mouth wide to spray high-density flames onto the complete Kinsusanu. However, nothing happened. Cough cough. That hee. Lord Dustless, please forgive me for offending you. Everyone thought that demonic dragon Tani would fight Dustless until one of them died in battle. Who would have thought that this majestic and domineering dragon would actually apologize with a flattering smile? This made everyone's jaws drop, especially Ito Ichich, who thought to himself, where is this dragon's integrity? You're a legendary dragon, so you have to pay attention to your image. You're a dragon, so don't ruin your whole race. Dustless looked down at the smiling demonic dragon Tani. His cold face flashed with some warmth, and the perfect form Kinsisanu loosened his grip and let him go. Riaz, this boring farce should be over now. He turned his head and revealed half of his face. The power of the Tensigan was boundless, as if it could see through the world. Riaz and Asashel, who were immersed in the darkness, also appeared in front of him. Cough cough, I'm sorry everyone. This sudden accident was actually a test from my brother. Riaz said helplessly and said awkwardly, that dragon's name is Tani. He was invited by my brother to train you all. Please don't mind. That was really a shock. Ito Ichich collapsed on the ground, and everyone felt that the mountain on their bodies disappeared. I don't mind, but I'm afraid that they can't take it. After all, a dragon is too much for them. Dustless shrugged and said indifferently. He did not organize Riaz's training, although he felt that it was very boring. This method of improving strength was also very slow, and in Dustless's view, there was no future. Long time no see, Tani. The Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet glowed with emerald light, and Drake's hoarse voice entered everyone's ears. Long time no see, de Drake. Demonic Dragon Tani replied in a nervous tone. At the same time, he peeked at Dustless from the corner of his eyes, afraid that Dustless would change his mind and tear him apart alive. He still could not control his body well. The perfect form Kinsisanu was too much of a deterrent. It was the first time he met someone of this level who was so powerful that he could easily kill him. Don't mind it. Dustless glanced at demonic dragon Tani and said casually. He did not have any ill feelings towards this funny dragon, although he was a little smart. Everyone, let's return to the Gimli family's territory first. Mother and brother have prepared a banquet to welcome you. Consider it an apology for this rash action. Riaz smiled elegantly. Her bell-like laughter was very pleasing to the ears. Speaking of which, why did I feel so many powerful auras just now? Are the gods of other mythological systems here? I'm really looking forward to the gods of this world. Dustless muttered to himself and looked at Riaz expectantly. I'm not sure about that. Riaz shook her head blankly. She had not returned home yet. How is this possible? This place is hundreds of kilometers away from the Gimli family's territory. How did he know the situation there? Did he rely on his own senses? Eulephia's heart was in turmoil, and she could not calm down. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. Her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Chapter 1349. Due to her excessive shock, Euliphia's chest heaved violently. Her heart was filled with shock. She had only just received news about Sazax, but Dustless had received it at the same time. He had sensed it with his own strength. What kind of monster is this guy? Eulifia bit her lips trembling slightly. There's going to be a big banquet in a few days, and all of you will be attending. I heard that the younger generation of demons will be there. Of course, there will also be an important guest. An old man from Northern Europe, Asashel interjected. So it's someone from another mythological system. Dustless mumbled to himself. There seem to be many mythological systems in this world. Should I drag that old man called Odin down from his position as the main god and replace him with me? Dustless lowered his head in thought. It seemed that he was hesitating whether to kill Odin or not. Shut up. Don't say things like that. Eulifia scolded with a straight face. She had even forgotten about their relationship as master and servant. Even jokes should stop before going too far. This guy really is lawless. Asashel lamented in his heart. He did not doubt Dustless's strength. If this guy was determined to snatch Odin's position, then no one would be able to stop him. At this moment, Dustless suddenly looked up with a frown. What's wrong? Eulifia asked. She was already on her way to the Jamanli family's magic circle. It's nothing. I just sensed a familiar aura. Don't worry about it. Dustless shook his head as he looked at Kitten thoughtfully. A rare look of fear flashed across her naturally dazed face. Looks like it really is her sister. Dustless mumbled. He had met Black Song of Taching once before, and was somewhat familiar with her. He still remembered her scent. All in all, our mission in the underworld this time is to train. I hope you can do your best. Riaz's gaze swept past Junai and the others as she pointed at Asashel. This guy will be the consultant of the Supernatural Research Department from now on. Asashel was like a black hole, instantly attracting everyone's attention, including Dustless. "Call me Sir Asashel." Asashel grumbled to Riaz. How rude was it to call his teacher that guy? This guy looks young on the surface, so he's probably an old antique. Moreover, he looks frivolous on the surface, and his attitude is no different from that of a brat. In reality, he's a very serious person. Dustless nodded to himself. To a certain extent, Asashel was indeed suitable to be a consultant for the Supernatural Research Lab. "Everyone is done. Please leave with me." Gulifia pointed at the magic formation behind her and gestured elegantly. Dustless's killing spree had already been forgotten. He was just an ordinary person, and she treated him as an equal. Evening, at the dinner of the Jimenez family. Dustless was familiar with Riaz's parents, but when Riaz's mother saw Dustless, the seductive way she winked at him was too much for Dustless to bear. "Tsk tisk, it's just a Logia devil fruit, and this woman is already dead set on me." Dustless was filled with disdain. A devil fruit was too easy to bribe. He still had a lot of them in his system. "I'll give one to Riaz later." Glancing at Riaz, Dustless made up his mind. He had even chosen the type of devil fruit. The dinner ended happily, and when it was time to rest in the middle of the night, before Dustless took the initiative to find Riaz's mother, Venelana, she impatiently came to find Dustless to make a baby. In the dark room, Venelana's moans that sounded like she was in pain and pleasure could be heard from time to time. It made one want to commit a crime, and one could not help but imagine in a direction that was not suitable for children. "I've already prepared everything that needs to be prepared." Venelana smiled and pinched Dustless's face. Following her lead, she looked at the table. A lot of sex toys had already been prepared. She had not seen Dustless for a while, and she wanted to go all out tonight. "Since you're here, I won't hold back." Dustless did not have the word restraint in his mind. A person should be free and easy. He was like a hungry wolf, fiercely pouncing on Venelana. And Venelana fully cooperated with Dustless. For his requests, no matter how perverted they were, Venelana did not reject them. She accepted them all and satisfied Dustless's various strange tastes. How crazy does this woman want strength? She's probably willing to sell her soul. Wuchen couldn't help but be speechless. He looked at Venelana, who was sleeping soundly. Then he walked to the balcony alone in his pajamas and stretched himself lazily. However, he found that a pair of eyes with bad intentions was quietly looking at him. "You've got guts. Have you forgotten the lesson I taught you before? Now you dare to come to me. Don't think that I'm always in a good mood. Maybe when I'm not in a good mood, I'll kill you immediately." Dustless said coldly as he focused his gaze on the black shadow sitting on the balcony pillar. Dustless, with his excellent eyesight, saw the person clearly. It was a tall woman, dressed very skimpily, and her entire body was filled with fatal attraction. "That's why I chose you to come here after doing that kind of thing just now. How about it? You're in a good mood now, aren't you?" However, Dustless felt that after getting rid of the demon god, the subsequent matters wouldn't have much to do with him. It was likely that he would have found the space-time tunnel by then, and be able to leave. But for now, these matters didn't have much to do with him. After all, he was still in the process of maturing, so he still needed to grow and have a certain foundation. In this way, he would be in a better position to negotiate. Dustless thought about it again. After thinking about all this, he went to rest. He wanted to recover his consumed strength as much as possible and prepare for tomorrow's battle. The next day after dawn, Dustless looked at the mess in his room and sighed. However, Dustless calculated the time. It was almost time for him to leave the city. After all, there were other exorcists in the city taking turns to take their turns. This way, the peace of the city could be maintained. After that, Dustless packed up and set off with his team. During this process, he told them the truth. He said that he encountered a problem, and that he might be in a very serious situation during this period of time. That is, he might be wanted by the demon realm. There would be a lot of demons attacking him along the way. When the others heard this, they were also a little surprised, but they quickly reacted and directly said, "That's right. That's right. That's right. It's okay. No matter what happened, Dustless, we will always support you and help you. We won't let you fall into danger. After all, we have been standing side by side for so long, so our relationship should be quite deep. I don't think there's a problem." After hearing such words, Dustless was naturally very touched and nodded solemnly. He really felt that if it was possible, he should treat them a little better in this last situation. This way, it could be regarded as repaying their care for him. When the last few people were on the road, they were directly intercepted by demons. Dustless specially counted the number of demons at this moment, and estimated the level of those demons. Dustless felt that for the exorcists present, it was not a serious matter. Therefore, the few of them quickly cooperated and attacked those devils swiftly and neatly. There were a lot of devils, and it seemed like they had planned this beforehand. They were waiting for everyone to appear here, so that they could attack them directly. Under such a situation, 3 demons appeared on Dustless's side. Moreover, these 3 demons seemed to have different strengths. These 3 demons should have a certain degree of tacit understanding and cooperation for a long time. They took turns to attack. When Dustless also launched an attack, they also quickly responded to a certain degree. It could be said that their cooperation was very complete, making Dustless feel a little difficult to attack. Dustless held the Tang saber in his hand, thinking about the flaws of these individuals. He also paid attention to the situation of the people around him. Chapter 1351. The sudden intruder was dressed in revealing clothing. A pair of heavy meatballs were half exposed, provoking people's most primitive desires. The girl's charming eyes were like silk, brimming with charm. "Touching Hegu, I advise you to give up on the unrealistic idea of taking away your sister." Dustless drank the red wine in the goblet in one gulp. He indifferently refused. "If you want to take away Kitten, you must first have the resolve to kill me." Dustless's words made his position clear, causing Taching Hegu to frown. "She is not related to you in any way. Why do you care so much about her?" Taching Hegu's beautiful eyes were overflowing with color. She really did not understand Dustless's scheme. She also did not think that Dustless was scheming about Kitten. This was completely nonsense. Kitten did not have anything that was worthy of Dustless's attention. "She is my fiancé's family." Dustless's eyes were filled with color. His confidence was obviously lacking. In other words, "We sisters have no hope of reuniting in this lifetime?" Her eyes were covered with a faint layer of water. Taching Heji's eyes dimmed a lot, and her tone also carried a touch of desolation. Everyone's position is different. Some things cannot be changed. Dustless shrugged and said helplessly. However, his eyes were jumping with a sly look. "Actually, if you sisters want to reunite, it is very simple. It all depends on your will." Dustless's words woke her up. Taching Hegu was like a chick that fell into the water. She quickly grabbed onto Dustless's arm. "Your little hand is so smooth." Taching Hegu was stunned. She did not expect Dustless's hand to be as smooth as silk. His skin was unbelievably delicate. She could not help but rub it a few more times. This female wolf is really too much. Dustless's mouth twitched. It was always him who took advantage of others. When did he suffer a loss? He. A series of light laughter resounded in his ears. Taching Heji's eyes that could make one commit a crime caused one's nerves to be in a mess. She really is a demon. Dustless secretly nodded his head. Even though his heart was as calm as an ancient well, there were faint ripples in it. Ordinary people might have already lost themselves in the gentleness of Black Song in Pagoda City, leading a drunken life in the countryside. As long as we resolve our relationship as sisters, I will be yours from now on. Her fragrant sandalwood mouth gently opened, and Deshang exhaled a fragrant scent. She, who was already extraordinarily charming, purposely revealed her mature figure, making people's blood boil. They couldn't help but want to agree to her conditions. Taking a glance at Vaini Lana, who was sleeping soundly, Taching Heish chuckled and said, "I can do what she did with you too. Actually, it's very simple. You still have the initiative. Dustless was not tempted. He passed the ball to Desheng Gu, indicating for him to settle it himself. He just explained the method. It's actually very simple. As long as you become Riaz's dependent like kitten, all these problems will be solved. There won't be any confrontational relationship between the two of you due to different factions, and you can be together every day. Dustless chuckled and leaned against the wall peacefully. He looked calm and composed, and he was not afraid of her rejection at all. You want to poach Wally? Narrowing her eyes, Desheng suddenly understood. If she jumped ship to Riaz's side, there was indeed no one who could stop her from meeting Kitten. Poach. Aren't these words too unpleasant to hear? I'm guiding you onto the right path. Do you think that I'm not as good as that arrogant lizard kid? When Dustless mentioned himself, he was in high spirits, but when he talked about Wally, his face was full of sneers. He mercilessly retaliated. His vision is too narrow. Do you think he can defeat the Great Red with his strength? That kid always gives me the feeling that he hasn't even graduated from kindergarten. You're insulting my boss in front of me. Is this really okay? Desheng asked speechlessly. Dustless really did not treat her as an outsider at all. He completely treated her as one of his own. This is the truth, Dustless reiterated. Not to mention that lizard kid is my enemy. Every man for himself. After I kill Wally in the future, you'll still have to find another place. It's not hard to find a suitable home now. Of course, if you want to think of it as poaching Wally, that's fine too. Dustless stared at Desheng little face and said, Give me time to think about it. Desheng lowered her head and fell into a dilemma. She was tempted by Dustless's suggestion. Listening to Dustless's tone, she smelled a trace of cold murderous intent. If Wally really died in the future, she had to find a suitable home. Dustless in front of her was indeed not bad. He completely defeated White Dragon King Wally in all aspects. Give me 7 days to think about it. Taking a deep breath, Desheng chose to leave for a while. Her mind was in a mess right now. She could not think steadily, and was unable to concentrate. No problem. Dustless slightly nodded and immediately continued. Remember, if you stand on Wally's side, you can forget about seeing Kitten in your life. You should know my strength. It's easy to stop the two of you from seeing each other. You. Hearing this, Desheng hard-won good impression of Dustless instantly disappeared. This guy relied on his strength to be so despicable and ruthless. He did not have the style of a strong person at all. Don't stare at me like you want to eat me. You should understand that this is the territory of the Gimli family. I can completely treat you as an enemy and take you as my own. You're still a virgin right now. You have to thank me for my kindness. Dustless proudly revealed an expression that said, You have to thank me. So shameless. Desheng was defeated and left. She was really afraid that Dustless would force her to stay. Chapter 1352. After witnessing Black Song of Tower City turn into a black wind and disappear, Silver returned to hug Vainilana, and fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, the sky was turning bright. Vainilana, who woke up first, took a deep look at Dustless before leaving quietly. As for when Dustless attacked, it was already late in the morning. Time was tight, and the dependents of the Supernatural Research Department were all undergoing intense training. Only Dustless was walking around in boredom. He had nothing to train, and no one could train him. Bored, he strolled around the Gimli family's territory alone to kill time. It seems to be the same as the human world. There's nothing special about it. On the streets, Dustless strolled around, looking left and right. He realized that it was the same as human society. There were all kinds of supermarkets and peddlers selling vegetables and fruits. The only difference between them and humans was that they were all demons with black wings. Thud thud thud. Suddenly, there were messy footsteps in front of him. Dustless raised his head instinctively. Bang bang bang. A ferocious force came from the front, and Dustless, who was caught off guard, was sent flying. Ouch! F***ck. Dustless sat on the ground and touched his red forehead. It hurt a little. Just as he was about to teach the bastard who attacked him a lesson, A delicate arm suddenly grabbed him. "I'm sorry, are you all right?" A pleasant and crisp voice asked. It seemed to be the person who bumped into him. "I'm fine," Dustless complained with a dark expression. He was knocked down by someone for no reason due to his carelessness. How could he endure this? Unable to restrain his anger, he raised his head and roared angrily out of humiliation. "How dare you, you are!" The words at the tip of Wu Chen's tongue stopped abruptly. What entered his sight was a silver-haired girl with an extraordinary appearance. Her watery eyes were moving nimbly, and her face was full of apologies. Silver hair drooped down on Dustless's head. The 3,000 strands of willow hair were filled with an elegant fragrance. It was very pleasant to the smell. The young girl's skin was fair and beautiful, her facial features were as beautiful as the moon, her bright eyes sparkled like stars, and her delicate red lips were like a blooming poppy flower, emitting a magical power. The young girl's face was filled with nervousness as she nervously looked at Dustless. After a while, she let out a sigh of relief. "It seems like he's not injured. Otherwise, there would be another expense. It smells really good." Because the two of them were too close, Dustless could still clearly smell the faint fragrance of the girl's body. It lingered in his mouth and nose for a long time. Why does it feel so familiar? Staring at the nervous girl who grabbed him, Dustless felt a sense of familiarity. She was somewhat similar to a certain figure in his mind, so he asked tentatively, "Lotfias?" The girl was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless in surprise and asked, "How do you know me?" "It really is her." Dustless's eyes flashed. He did not expect to meet this Valkyrie here. Lotfias is Odin's bodyguard, which indirectly means that the main god called Odin is also here. Since he is so desperate to form an alliance, maybe there is a big problem with their mythological system. That god called Loki seems to be Odin's sworn enemy. Staring at Lotfias' perfect face, Dustless guessed in his heart. "Ahem." Lotfias coughed twice, then blinked at Dustless and asked, "Young man, have you seen an old man with white hair and a white beard?" "Old man?" "Yes." Without even thinking, Wu Che replied without hesitation. "Are you talking about the old man who stares at women's buttocks? I saw him just now on this road. He is very wretched. Big sister, you have to stay away from him." Lotfias' mouth twitched, and her face turned red. She did not doubt Dustless's words, because their main god Odin's personality was so perverted. The gods of the Norse mythological system are going to faint from crying. Lotfias rubbed her temples tiredly and said speechlessly, "Odin was also a headache. He was more like a lecherous old man than a main god. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Lotfias, please take care of me in the future." Lotfias' face bloomed with a gentle smile as she extended her hand and said very politely. Dustless nodded slightly, and also extended his right arm to shake her hand. He smiled and said, "My name is Dustless, the husband of the Gimli family. I am very familiar with this place. Why don't I take you to that wretched old man?" "Wretched old man?" Hearing this, Lotfias smiled with a lot of black lines hanging on her forehead. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Dustless took the initiative to volunteer. Anyway, he was bored now, so it was better to find a beautiful woman to relieve his boredom. It was much better than facing a group of men. Gimli family? What does he have to do with magic Sazex? Hearing this, Lotfias' eyes flashed and she guessed the identity of Dustless. Then she frowned slightly, feeling that the name Dustless was familiar. Sazex's sister Ria's, she is my future wife. Seeing through Lotfias' confusion, Dustless said his identity with a smile. "You want to find that wretched old man? I'll take you there." Slightly closing his eyes, Dustless's observation hockey quietly spread, and he concentrated on searching for the traces of Odin. After a while, he opened his deep eyes with a confident look on his face. Apparently, he noticed the existence of Odin. He simply took Lotfias' small hand. The latter's face suddenly turned red, and she gave up after struggling for a while. Her first impression of Dustless was also good, and he did not seem like the kind of person who had a dirty mind. Chapter 1353. The reason why Latvia did not resist Dustless was not only because of his good influence, but also because of the Gimli family. After all, they were here to form an alliance, so naturally, they would not ruin their relationship with Dustless. Speaking of which, aren't you curious about my identity? Aren't you afraid that You raped me? Dustless slyly rolled his eyes and teased. If that's the case, I'll definitely accept it with pride. You. Latvia's white face instantly turned red, and her angry look was very cute and playful. Miss Latvia, you should be the bodyguard of the Norse god Odin, right? The real purpose of coming to the underworld this time is to form an alliance with the fallen angels, the demons, and the angels. Calamity should be a threat to the Norse mythological system, right? Dustless spoke frankly. The existence of Calamity was a threat to the entire world. Latvia's white chin lightly nodded, and then she could not help but ask curiously. Since you know my identity, you still dare to say that? What you said just now might ruin our relationship. Is that a serious crime? After saying that, Latvia looked at Dustless with her hands on her hips, like a tiger eyeing its prey. Serious crime? What does that have to do with me? Dustless curled his lips to express his confusion, and then said bluntly, destroy it if you want. What does it have to do with me? Even if this world is destroyed by Calamity, it has nothing to do with me. Dustless's expression was normal, and he really felt that this group of people was boring enough. They could live their own lives, and the grand script of the Savior was really not suitable for him. Even if the world is destroyed, you will be finished. Latvia said seriously, looking at Dustless with a hopeless expression. That's simple. Upon hearing this, Dustless' soul smiled nonchalantly and said, I will get rid of them before they destroy me. Dustless had never thought of becoming enemies with the group of misfortune. But if they didn't know what was good for them, such as White Dragon Emperor Wally, who took the initiative to come to him, Dustless wouldn't be polite. Dustless would generously send his enemies to their deaths if they took the initiative to send them to their deaths. By the way, are you sure you can find Sir Odin? Rose Vies questioned. She felt that Dustless's sloppy behavior was a little strange. Odin hasn't been found yet, but there is a group of people who came to trouble us. Observation hockey expanded, and Dustless found a large number of killers ambushed on both sides of the street. Hearing this, Latvia frowned slightly and looked at Dustless in confusion. Just as she was about to ask him what happened, countless black shadows suddenly attacked and surrounded the two of them. You sure have a lot of enemies, Latvia said with a frown, her tone turning cold. I think you are mistaken. This group of people is coming for you. Dustless glanced at Latvia gently and said softly, as long as you die, I don't think the alliance of several forces will be so smooth, and there is even a possibility that they will part ways. Am I that important? I'm just an insignificant bodyguard. Latvia was speechless and felt that Dustless was shirking his responsibility. Don't belittle yourself. You've been Odin's bodyguard for so many years, and your status isn't low. If you were killed for no reason, that old man Odin would definitely get angry. And this is the territory of the Gimli family. When the time comes, a battle will be unavoidable. Wu Chen calmly analyzed. His analysis was well-grounded, and no one could find a reason to refute it. But this group of people who came to sneak attack me forgot a major problem. Immediately afterward, Dustless continued to add, it's okay to attack you, but they dare to attack me, they are bold. After saying that, Dustless revealed a terrifying demonic smile. Like a hunter lurking in the wilderness, his eyes shot out an oily green light that could devour people. Strange, why do I feel that this guy is familiar, but I can't remember specifically? Latvia stomped her feet angrily, but Dustless had already launched a fatal attack. Boom boom boom. A majestic, insubstantial energy ripple erupted from Dustless's body, and spread hundreds of meters away in the blink of an eye. Those who came into contact with the energy ripple all frothed at the mouth. And in the sky, a huge rift had been torn open. What is this feeling? Luasiwi's eyes were filled with panic as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. Even though the airwave wasn't deliberately released to target her, it was still oppressive. It was as though she had encountered her natural enemy, and her entire body was trembling slightly. Luisiwi even felt that with just a thought from Dustless, she would be crushed to pieces. You. Who are you? Suppressing the shock in her heart, Lothwise asked. The black-clothed people surrounding them were instantly killed, all of them frothing at the mouth and rolling their eyes. My name is Dustless, I've told you before. Dustless crossed his arms and said casually. Suddenly, he felt an unusual energy fluctuation in the sky. Is the main culprit of the sneak attack here? Quietly staring at the mysterious magic circle in the void, Dustless smelled an unusual energy fluctuation. Dustless. Oh right, I remember now. The Dustless who killed the fallen angel Cadre, and almost killed the White Dragon Emperor Wally in an instant. Lothwise rubbed her eyes and suddenly realized that she had heard the legend of Dustless's abnormal power. After hearing the rumors of Dustless's heaven-defying strength, Lothwise also became a fan of Dustless. Chapter 1354. Lusvias was extremely excited. Her eyes sparkled with starlight as she looked at Dustless with 2 stars in her eyes. This woman has changed so much. Women are indeed fickle creatures. Dustless felt uncomfortable under this inexplicable gaze. For some reason, he felt as though Lothwise was going to swallow him. He had to change the topic. I think he's the culprit who attacked us just now. Dustless looked at the distant sky. The magic circle there was clearly visible. This magic circle. I don't know much about magic, but I'm sure that the person who attacked us is definitely not ordinary. Dustless explained with great interest. Crack, crack, crack. At the same time, the sky exploded with a crisp sound like a mirror. Countless cracks appeared in the boundless void, crisscrossing like a spider web. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Majestic magic waves spread out, and the entire sky shook violently. It seemed like it could not hold on any longer. Not bad. After a few rough glances, Dustless estimated the approximate strength of the intruder. Based on the energy waves in this world, it was probably someone on the level of a god. Just not bad. Lothwise, who was beside him, smiled bitterly. Dustless was bold, but this unusual energy wave made her shudder. Her body was about to be crushed. In other words, it was like the absolute suppression of a higher life form over a lower life form. It was full of disdain. Ah, this god is obviously not a good person. He only knows how to bully the weak and fear the strong. The surface of Dustless' body emitted a faint golden luster that enveloped Lusvias. Only then did her rapid breathing stabilize. Looking closely, she was already sweating profusely, and her sweat had soaked her clothes. Due to the water, certain parts of Lusvia's body could be vaguely seen by the sharp-eyed Dustless. Gulp! Dustless swallowed his saliva and secretly gave her a thumbs up. Rosevay's figure was definitely top-notch. Sorry I've dragged you down. At the same time, she gazed deeply at the familiar magic array. She could already vaguely guess who it was that had arrived. Do you know that idiot god? He really has no taste. Noticing Lusvia's strange expression, Dustless's unrestrained words resounded throughout the world. Idiot, don't you know who that is? That's a god, a real god. The corner of Lothwise's mouth twitched. She quickly covered Dustless's mouth and pressed him into her arms. At the same time, she shouted at the magic circle in the sky. Lord Loki, this child is not sensible. Please forgive him. Bang bang bang. The horizon completely exploded. A rather handsome young man stood there with his hands behind his back. His expression was dark and wild, and in his eyes, everyone was like ants that couldn't even withstand a single blow. This guy, this annoying long outyin face is really annoying. Dustless's eyes flashed with anger. He then enjoyed lying in Lusvia's arms, enjoying her intoxicating body fragrance and the 2 meaty things on his head. Humph. The evil god Loki first snorted coldly and glanced at Dustless with murderous eyes. Then he smiled. He noticed that there was not the slightest fluctuation on him, so he deliberately treated him as a pawn that wasn't worth mentioning. He's just a piece of trash. I won't bother with him, but Loki's lips curled into a ferocious smile. He said directly, my pet is hungry. I'll have to trouble you two to fill his stomach. This time, I'll let bygones be bygones. Loki waved his hand and looked magnanimous. However, his words made Losvias feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Lord Loki, what you're doing is against. Don't waste your breath. He's determined to kill the two of us. This will cause a rift between the two sides. When that happens, the plan to form an alliance will fail. Dustless interrupted Losvias. He looked at Loki, who was standing in the void, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. Awoo 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 awoo. At the same time, a hysterical roar shook the sky. Violent winds and waves came at them. The surrounding buildings were destroyed, and the streets that were filled with people turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. This beast, oh no, what's the name of this wolf? Dustless asked Losvias innocently. I say, you're not doing this on purpose, are you? That wolf's name is Fenrir. Losvias fiercely pinched Dustless's face and asked with a dark expression. Awoo awoo awoo. Awoo awoo. The silver wolf roared angrily at the sky. The sky seemed to tremble as a huge ripple spread across the entire sky. It was as if even the heavens were afraid of his power. Seeing this, Dustless just smiled and replied coldly with an expressionless face. The world has changed. It's just a mere beast, and it dares to bare its teeth at people. As expected, the world is deteriorating day by day. Let's retreat quickly. The two of us together are no match for it. We must not let Loki's scheme succeed. At this point, Losvias had also given up on the idea of fighting. Fenrir was already a ferocious demon. If the evil god Loki joined in, the two of them had no chance of winning. Run? Do you think the two of us can outrun these two crazy gods? Dustless stood up and stretched. His eyes were filled with a cold light. Then what do you plan to do? Losvias, who was at a loss, sighed. Her voice was filled with despair. It's very simple. I'll use my fist to tell that beast whose fist is stronger. Chapter 1356. Loki's face was black. Dustless's words were tantamount to a direct slap in his face, and it was a very loud one. The meaning of these words was obviously, I will stand still and let you hit me, but you can't hit me. Awoo. At the same time, Fenrir, who was previously sent flying by the Tinsigan, roared again. Dustless's powerful strength not only didn't hurt him, but it also stirred up the anger in Fenrir's heart. It's worthy of being a powerful species that can rival the gods. Dustless nodded secretly. This ugly big dog was very powerful. At least he was very good at fighting. Show me here. Your enemy is me, Loki. Rocky roared. Dustless's indifferent expression made him feel like he was being looked down upon. Whoosh. The boundless magic array spread out again, and a large black area, like before, piled up all over the sky, emitting a bright destructive light wave. It's still the same trick. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly, and the power of the Tinsigan in his right eye was twisted, and his own form also changed. The emerald light wrapped his whole body, and several green pillars floated behind him. Dustless's temperament also changed greatly, and his eyes were filled with arrogance. Only with the strength of a god can I defeat a god like you. Glancing at Loki faintly, several green pillars behind Dustless moved, and they all liquefied and gathered in the palm of Dustless. The golden light could be vaguely seen, gathering in the palm of Dustless, but it was very weak, as if it would be extinguished at any time by the wind. Huh! What's the use of the light of a firefly? Who do you think your enemy is? I am a god, Loki. Loki said proudly, especially when he mentioned the word god. He deliberately emphasized the word. However, Dustless just glanced at him with pity. Loki may be a god, but he is definitely the weakest god that Dustless has ever confronted so far. Buzz. More and more magic arrays spread throughout the void, and looking at Loki's distorted face, it seemed that the whole world was turned into a magic array. It's time to end this. With a cold look in his eyes, Dustless threw out the light in his hand like a sharp sword with all his strength. The weak light expanded thousands of times. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The faint golden light turned into a sword of light that could destroy the entire world. Its length exceeded the limit of what the eye could capture, and it attacked the entire sky like a wave. Ka ka ka. The magic circles that came into contact with it all collapsed, and were shattered by the absolute power. The withered pieces of the magic circles were no different from the broken pieces of a mirror, reflecting Loki's stunned old face. Ao ao ao. At the same time, Fenrir seized the opportunity. His huge body accelerated without limit. His forelimbs gathered explosive power. When he got close to Dustless, he jumped up and pounced towards the sky. For a dog to be able to jump so high, you can be considered to have set a new record. You deserve to be praised. Dustless sneered, and his boiling spiritual pressure turned into a powerful attack to suppress it, faintly revealing the coat of arms, the arrogant and unruly talent. After chanting the ancient incantation at the fastest speed, the environment around Fenrir immediately changed. He was in the ropeway of the huge coffin. Ao ao ao. Inside the dead silent coffin, Fenrir screamed in panic, but no one paid attention to him. It was as if the whole world had abandoned him. Then, Fenrir found that he was locked on by countless sharp points. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Thousands of invisible blades shot out at the same time, attacking every cell in Fenrir's body. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Although Fenrir avoided some of the deadly invisible blades, there were too many of them. It was inevitable that he would be injured. Soon his huge body was dripping with blood, and his skin and flesh were exposed. His breath was also very weak. There were scars all over his body, as if he had been cut by 1,000 blades. His white bones could still be seen. Bang bang bang. After a while, the black coffin collapsed, and the half-dead Fenrir fell to the ground. He was only one step away from death. The scars all over his body made people think about how horrible Fenrir had been treated. Even though he had lost consciousness, Fenrir was still trembling in fear. Ah, damn it. What did you do to my baby, you bastard? I want you to pay with your blood. Loki, who had lost control of his mind, roared. His eyes were about to burst. Gulp. So powerful. Lothwise, who was stunned, was horrified. She did not expect Dustless to be so strong. Loki and Fenrir were like rabbits that he could play with at will. Lord Odin's decision to form an alliance with the demons is too wise. At first, Lothwise still had doubts about the alliance. Now, according to Dustless's strength, it was a good deal. After all, he was the son-in-law of the Gimli family, and the Norse mythology system would definitely rise with him. Do you want to be like him, Loki? Dustless asked faintly. His light tone was weak, and it gave people the feeling that he was holding up the situation. However, no one dared to question him. After all, Fenrir was a lesson. It was fine if Dustless did not say it. Once he said it, Loki's heart ached. Fenrir was almost sent to hell by Dustless. If he turned a deaf ear to this hatred, he would not be able to survive in the future. He would probably be laughed at when he returned to Northern Europe. I can't let it go like this. I'm a god. How can I lose to such an unknown brat? Loki chose to continue his deathbed struggle. It was fine if he, a god, fell. After all, there was always someone better than him. However, he could not tolerate this person who made him fall. Chapter 1357. Losvia was extremely shocked. She felt as if her eyes were blurred, and her breasts were heaving up and down. If she was not mistaken, Dustless seemed to have used a casual move to kill this infamous wolf. Looking at his half-dead appearance, it was a question whether he could survive in the end. Lord Loki, please don't be stubborn, or you will also. Her gaze fell on Fenrir's head, and Lothwise's squirming mouth suddenly stopped. If she hurt Loki's self-confidence as a god, it would be counterproductive. However, Loki only glanced at Lothwise and understood what she was trying to say. His expression was gloomy, as if he had eaten 10 pounds of flies, and he roared in a low voice. Are you trying to say that if I don't know what's good for me, I will end up like Fenrir? This was naked mockery and slander. You did well. I have never been as angry as I am today. Loki's expression was ferocious, and his protruding eyes were bloodshot, as if they were about to fall out. You think too highly of yourself. Dustless shook his head gently. He had killed countless people who called themselves gods, and Loki could only be regarded as an ordinary existence among them. At this moment, Dustless suddenly realized that there was a slight change in the sky. A large pile of crystal ice fell, and it was strange that ice shards were falling. "Did you do it?" Dustless asked with a frown. "Of course." Evil god Loki said valiantly, and at the same time he snapped his fingers, and the sky immediately froze. "Right, this guy seems to be able to control ice." Dustless suddenly understood, and there was some interest in his words. He then provocatively hooked his finger at Loki and said, "Take out your strongest move, this is your last chance." Damn it. Loki's mouth twitched when he heard this, and the ice shards falling from the sky also became several times larger. They were as large as a villa, and there were so many that it was dazzling. "You want to smash me to death." In an instant he saw through Loki's intention. Dustless stepped on the void and avoided the attack. However, it was useless. "Idiot, the one who manipulated them is me, Loki." With a wave of Loki's hand, the ice meteorite that Dustless had dodged changed its trajectory. Wherever Dustless ran, they would chase after him. Poochie. Due to his carelessness, Dustless's clothes were cut open. Ha ha ha. Seeing this, Loki looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Although the insignificant attack had no effect on Dustless, Loki himself enjoyed it very much. In the previous battle he had used all his skills, but he couldn't even touch Dustless's hair. "Evil god Loki? I take back my previous underestimation. Let's deal with you a little more seriously." Dustless gave up on running away, and turned to face the incoming attack head-on. The golden light turned into a sharp cold light, and cut the incoming ice meteor into pieces. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, as soon as one was destroyed, another group appeared. "You want to fight me? I'm a god." Without a doubt, gods did have the right to look down on mortals. For a loser like Dustless, who had no identity and no background, they were even more lethal. However, if Loki knew that Dustless was a visitor from another world, and that after trampling on 3 worlds in a row, countless gods had died in his hands, he might not think so. Buzz buzz buzz. A large vortex suddenly appeared in the sky surrounded by meteorites. A dark red spiral sword appeared in Dustless's hand. The sword was emitting a dark red demonic light. The moment it appeared, the whole world seemed to have stopped. "What is that?" Loki's old face darkened. Even he had a bad feeling. "This is called the Good Separation Sword," Dustless explained calmly. Then he raised the spiral sword high up. "Legend has it that it can destroy the world and cut space. Now I'll test it on you, Loki." After saying that, Wuchen waved the Gwyli sword in his hand and slashed out. A huge red sword light whizzed out. Ka ka ka. The floating meteorites seemed to have met their natural enemy. When they came in contact with the huge red light, they all disintegrated. The sky cleared up again, and the warm sunlight shone down again. How is this possible? I spent so much effort on this move. How can it be so weak? The evil god Loki said in a daze. Dustless had crushed his confidence in one move. There's no need to be sad. Putting away the Good Separation Sword, Dustless picked up the corner of his torn clothes and comforted him. "Look on the bright side. At least you didn't come out empty-handed. At least your attack tore the corner of my clothes. That's not a bad result." Hearing that, Loki looked like he had eaten Chinese gold thread. He could not speak of his bitterness. All he could do was hold it in and sulk. Ka ka ka. At the same time, the Good Separation Sword emitted an unprecedented sharpness. Just like its name, it cut through space. Wherever it went, it was as terrifying as a natural disaster. Something's not right. Dustless frowned as he stared at the spot where the Good Separation Sword had cut through. A strange look flashed across his face. The mysterious rainbow space clearly did not belong to the universe's abyss. It was fundamentally different, and seemed to belong to a special zone. Although Dustless did not know what was good for him, he had an expert at this moment. "That's a dimensional space? Are you kidding me? That weapon can really cut through space." Loki's eyes widened. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dislocated. Roar roar roar. At the same time, a loud dragon roar came from that space. It reverberated between heaven and earth, as if it came from ancient times. Could it be? A majestic crimson body suddenly appeared in his mind. Dustless could vaguely guess what kind of person it was. There was only one dragon in the dimensional crevice. The Great Red. Chapter 1358. Although it's just a personal guess, there seems to be no one else in the dimensional crack except for the Great Red. The infinite dragon god Orpheus was driven out by the Great Red a long time ago, and no one can associate it with the red dragon recorded in the nerves. Bastard, could it be that it's... Loki's face also changed greatly, showing a rare look of awe. The Great Red is a powerful existence that even the gods are afraid of. It seems that it's not wrong. Seeing this, Dustless's expression showed a touch of curiosity, and his boundless observation hockey spread. The battle between Dustless and Loki has attracted the attention of many people, including the demon king Syzax and the Nordic god Odin. It shouldn't be dangerous to leave her here. Anyway, Syzax and Odin won't watch Lothvise fall and get hurt. After thinking that Lothvise was not in danger, Dustless turned into a red light and rushed into the dimensional crack. The Great Red is the existence that he is most interested in. Haha, reckless thing. Seeing this, Loki slapped the table and shouted, breaking into the dimensional crack alone is no different from looking for death. In the endless mystery, everything is still here. Where did that big lizard go? Dustless looked around, and his observation hockey spread without limit, and found that the dimensional crack was boundless, beyond the limit of what he could perceive. And the Great Red has long disappeared. Ow, ow, ow. The void rippled, and a majestic force spread rapidly, and the vicissitudes of life contained great power. This guy is not simple. It's a dragon. Dustless changed his words, and it was not difficult to see that he had a little more recognition of the Great Red. His observation hockey tightly locked the place where the sound came from, and Dustless's glint flash fruit's ability broke out to the limit. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Dustless turned into a golden beam of light, unstoppable, and marched toward the fist where the Great Red was located. Deep in the dimensional crack, the Great Red's huge dragon eyes flashed with a ripple, and it suddenly felt a special energy fluctuation. When he tried to sense it carefully, it was as if it had evaporated and did not exist at all. It should be a misconception. This is a dimensional crevice. No one can survive like me. It's also not like Orpheus. Unless she has absolute strength to suppress me, she should understand the consequences of rashly starting a fight with me. As for the others, they should not be so stupid as to make me their enemy. Unlike the simple-minded and ignorant infinite dragon god Orpheus, the Great Red Heart was much smarter. Go back to sleep. No, there are indeed unknown creatures coming, and they're unbelievably fast. Raising its eyes abruptly, a hint of surprise flashed across its calm dragon eyes. The Great Red's wings flapped lightly, and it immediately whizzed out, rushing in the direction Dustless had come from. Chapter 1359. Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. He had once imagined the Great Red turning into a human. After all, if her nemesis, the infinite dragon god Orpheus, could do it, there was no reason why the Great Red could not. What did you call me? Female dragon. The Great Red's face in human form wrinkled as anger flashed across her delicate little face. I have a name too. You can call me the Great Red. The Great Red's human form was exceptionally stunning. Her looks were no less than Rias, Junai, and the others. In fact, the Great Red's unapproachable, goddess-like aura was far superior to the other ladies. Her black hair danced without wind. Her purple pupils were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Her tall nose bridge was exceptionally cute, and her delicate red lips were like blooming flowers. Coupled with her exquisite facial features and that ethereal aura, even the most picky of beauties would have their hearts racing. Your eyes are very annoying. A hint of displeasure flashed across the Great Red's pretty face, and then she mercilessly chased him away. This is my territory. Leave if you don't want to be reduced to ashes. I originally thought that I was shameless and thick-skinned enough, But after hearing your name, I realized that I was simply too weak. You actually added the word great in front of your name. How narcissistic are you? Facing the Great Red's threat, Dustless was not afraid at all. Instead, he taunted her even more. You, digging your own grave. The Great Red's pretty face was filled with anger. From the speed and attack just now, she could guess that Dustless was not ordinary. However, that did not mean that she was afraid of Dustless. She was not afraid of the infinite dragon god Orpheus, so why would she be afraid of a nobody? She clenched her hand into a ball and smashed it forward without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The space where Dustless was standing instantly caved in. Circles of destructive ripples spread out, destroying everything that came into contact with it. Dustless himself was dismembered at the first moment, turning into countless photons. So weak? Seeing this, the Great Red raised an eyebrow. She stared at the photons that suddenly appeared in front of her, and threw out another punch. Boom, boom, boom. The scene was exactly the same as before. At the lower limit of the void, circles of destructive waves spread out, as if the entire dimensional crevice was accompanied by wails of agony. However, the light did not react. Although it was scattered by the Great Red's punch, it still gathered in one place. Alili, you're really heartless. Why are you so ruthless? Is once not enough? Do you want to do it again? The photon rippled with a holy radiance, and then a figure floated out from it. So, unexpectedly, the Great Red ignored Dustless's words and threw another punch. Bang, bang, bang. This time, the force used was even more ferocious. Dustless's body was once again scattered and dismembered. The pieces of his body exploded dozens of meters away. It's useless. I'm the Shining Man. You can kill me with your bare fists. I might have died a few hundred years ago. Dustless's voice came from the void, and then his dismembered body exploded, turning into dense photons. Just like before, they flew in another direction, and it seemed like they were going to heal again. What kind of monster is this guy? Immortal and indestructible? Her crystal eyes were filled with doubts. This was the first time the Great Red had seen such an incredible ability. What's your goal? The Great Red raised his fist and asked in a flat tone. Me? It's actually very simple. After being reunited, Dustless said seriously, I want to be a dragon knight. I just want to capture you and make you my mount. It's that simple. Capture me and make me your mount. The Great Red was obviously angered by these words, and her body trembled. If you want to take advantage of me and ask for some benefits, I'll let it go. But your condition has exceeded the limit of my tolerance. Instead of letting you continue to be arrogant, I think it's better to let you see my strength first before you speak. The Great Red showed her valiant side. She opened her mouth slightly, and a boundless sea of fire erupted. As expected, all dragons have the habit of spitting fire. Witnessing the oncoming fire shadow, Wuchen couldn't help but frown. He looked around. This exaggerated flame seemed to occupy the entire space of the dimensional crevice. Even the dead world was peeling off layer by layer, as if it was melting. No wonder she's invincible. She has unlimited power, and it's easy for her to squander it. Dustless nodded slightly. Unlimited power could be said to be her greatest advantage. It's useless for you to be afraid now. The Great Red's eyes that were as calm as still water splashed out huge waves, turning into a rolling sea of fire. The eruption of the fire was even more ferocious and violent. Dustless's body was burning, and even the boundless abyss under his feet was distorted by the heat. However, his main body didn't feel any discomfort at all. This guy. Seeing this, the Great Red frowned, and secretly cursed Dustless for being troublesome. His ability was heaven-defying. Even if she had the power to destroy the world, her opponent was an existence that was like air, so what was the use? She couldn't hit him at all. Be my mount. I can bring you to a higher world, and step into a higher realm. Dustless had roamed 3 worlds in a row. Including the world before him, he had already roamed 4 worlds. They couldn't compare to Dustless's experience. His vision and mentality were higher. Boy, if someone else told you to be my mount, what would you think? Would you jump into my arms? The Great Red forcefully suppressed her raging fury and looked at Dustless with hostility. She enunciated every word clearly. Chapter 1360. Dustless was speechless and looked at the Great Red at a loss. He awkwardly found that he had nothing to say. If someone dared to say those kinds of words to him, Wuchen would definitely beat him up until his parents couldn't recognize him. No matter what, there's no hope for negotiation, so sorry. Speaking of this, Dustless's eyes shone with a piercing cold light. Since there was no hope for peaceful negotiation, the only way left was to solve it by force. I'm not even afraid of the infinite dragon god Orpheus. Why would I be afraid of you? The Great Red raised her beautiful fist and showed no fear. This little female dragon is the same as Orpheus. They are both ignorant of the world. The only difference is that the Great Red is more scheming than the simple Orpheus. Dustless thought to himself. He didn't intend to hurt the Great Red. Boom, boom, boom. Dustless, who decided to awaken his force to tame the Great Red, naturally burst out his strength without mercy. Endless chakra and Ryatsu gushed out. As the main body of the tin-tailed beast, Dustless's chakra was infinite. Dustless, who also devoured the Spirit King in the Shinigami world, also had infinite Ryatsu. The greatest advantage of the Great Red was her infinite energy. Dustless also had it. Not only that, but he also gathered all kinds of heaven-defying abilities, such as Rinnegan Sharingan, Tensegan, and an immortal body, including elemental transformation, which could make him immune to 99% of physical attacks in the world. In addition, Dustless also had a large number of heaven-defying weapons that could destroy the world, such as the parietal sword in Yamamoto's Zenka no Tachi. They were all weapons that could destroy the entire world. Dustless had too many of them, so the Great Red had no advantage in front of him. It was the same in all aspects, so it was destined to be defeated and become Dustless' mount. And Dustless himself was gloriously sublimated into a dragon knight. Wanxiang Heaven's Pull. Dustless's hand was like the hand of heaven, shooting out invisible gravitational waves. Gravity. Great Red murmured and frowned. She didn't know why, but when she looked into those purple eyes, she felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if she had met Orpheus. No, it was as if she had met an old enemy who was stronger than Orpheus. It made it difficult for her to calm down. Trying to defeat me with such a weak gravitational force? The enemies who hated me were killed by me countless years ago. The Great Red wasn't afraid. Using the inertia of gravity, it arrived in front of Dustless in an instant. Its small white fist was filled with explosive power. Bang! 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 The young fist smashed into Dustless's face, but he didn't turn into a photon like before. Instead, he directly penetrated Dustless's head. It was as if he had turned transparent. It's over. Silver, who had activated God's might, said softly as he pointed at the sky. Countless black shadows instantly descended from the sky. Immortal technique, bright God gate. The Great Red's beautiful eyes widened as she stared blankly at the falling red logs. She didn't expect Dustless to have a trick up his sleeve. She didn't even have the chance to run before she was suppressed by the dense logs. Boom. 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 The red logs that filled the sky fell mercilessly. The Great Red's waist was suppressed by the red logs, and she couldn't move. How do you feel? It shouldn't hurt, right? I went easy on you. The immortal technique, Bright God Gate, that I release with my full strength isn't something that Senju Hashirama can compare to. Dustless squatted down and looked at the angry girl, who couldn't escape no matter how hard she struggled. He couldn't help but smile. Be my mount. I won't treat you unfairly. Rubbing the girl's willow hair, Wuchen said with a serious smile. I've already answered you. If you're willing to be someone else's mount, I'll be your mount. The Great Red snorted and turned her head away, unwilling to look at him. Stubborn problem girl, it seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, let me teach her a lesson for you. I know her weakness. A voice suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Not only was the Great Red shocked, but even Dustless was stunned. They instinctively looked toward the source of the voice. Orpheus. Dustless and the Great Red said in surprise at the same time. The Great Red avoided Orpheus' gaze at the first moment. Other than Dustless, Orpheus was the last person she wanted to see. She's kind enough to let you be her mount. Why are you so untactful? This is a big problem. You need to be punished. Orpheus grabbed Dustless and questioned. Her black eyes looked down at the Great Red, who was silent with her head lowered. A faint arc flashed across her naturally naive little face. She looked excited as if she had found a fun toy. I'll teach her a lesson for you. I guarantee that she'll be obedient. Orpheus promised passionately. At the same time, she sat on the Great Red's legs. A carefree smile flashed across her innocent face. This girl. Could it be that? Could it be? Dustless suddenly thought of something. He had a bad premonition. He dashed in front of Orpheus and was about to stop her, but it was too late. You actually chased me out of my hometown. As the main culprit, you're unforgivable. You need to be punished with the most severe punishment. Then, under Dustless's shocked gaze, Orpheus raised her hand and shattered the Great Red's bright toy. Her two fleshy buttocks were instantly exposed to Dustless's eyes. Then Orpheus did something even more shocking. She raised her fair hand and swung it down without hesitation. Smack! 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 The crisp sound echoed in the dead silence of the dimensional crevice. Not only was the Great Red stunned, but so was Dustless. The strongest existence in the legends, the real Red Dragon God Emperor, had her buttocks slapped. Chapter 1361. Dustless was dumbfounded, and the thoughts in his mind were buzzing. He had already figured out how serious and terrifying this matter was. The Great Red might fly into a rage out of humiliation and start a war with Orpheus. She would not hesitate even if the whole world was destroyed. After all, this was a matter of her dignity. If news of this spread out, she would not be able to face anyone. The dignity that she had accumulated over countless years would be gone. She would become the laughingstock of the whole world. Well, I say, smack, 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 smack. The crisp sound was still echoing in Dustless's ears. The surroundings were dead silent. The silence was terrifying. He stared blankly at the infinite dragon god Orpheus, whose face was filled with a vengeful smile. Even if you want to die, you can't do this. The real Red Dragon God Emperor has the DXD, Dragon of Dragons. The Great Red. Is her but for anyone to spank? Most importantly, she did not even consider Dustless's existence in front of him. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, the entire dimensional crevice was filled with a raging aura. He could vaguely hear the crisp sound of caw-caw-caw. Following the source of the sound, it was the Great Red whose face had turned black. Dustless could see that although the Great Red was very innocent in some aspects, she was fundamentally different from the infinite dragon god Orpheus. After being humiliated so greatly, Dustless was sure that this little female dragon was about to go berserk. Orpheus, this family, friend, as expected, just as Dustless had guessed, the Great Red turned her head and stared at the infinite dragon god Orpheus, who was sitting on her with a serious expression. She was almost biting out every word. Come over here quickly. Sensing that the Great Red was about to go berserk, Dustless quickly pulled Orpheus over. Before he left, he did not forget to glance at the Great Red's round butt. Don't stop me. I'm teaching her a lesson for you. Orpheus spoke to Dustless in an extremely dissatisfied tone. Teaching her a lesson? You don't have to go so far as to spank her, but... Dustless rubbed his temples in frustration. He was speechless. The infinite dragon god Orpheus spanked the Great Red's butt. This was definitely the most explosive news of the century. Is it wrong? That's what I've seen in the human world. If they don't listen, they'll beat them. Infinite dragon god Orpheus said with a confused look. At the same time, she made a fighting posture. So you learned it from an anthropologist. Dustless's mouth twitched when he heard that. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Orpheus was indeed extremely naive. Aolo aolo. Caw caw caw. There was an unusual energy fluctuation and a crisp sound. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and looked towards the source of the sound. There was an unparalleled energy fluctuation that actually shattered the suppression of the bright god gate. When any living being is enraged, they will explode with even more power than usual. You have truly angered her. The Great Red is really going to reveal her ferocious side. The gigantic crimson dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky. The Great Red unhesitatingly released her true form, once again revealing her true form as a dragon. Her gigantic body blotted out the sky and covered the earth. No matter who it was, they only had one feeling in front of her: insignificant. Help me deal with her. I'll lend you my power and we'll beat her together, Orpheus said in a serious tone. Orpheus said in a serious tone. It seemed that he was not satisfied with the spanking just now and wanted to do it again. Dustless's face darkened. Orpheus obviously wanted to see the world in chaos. As the strongest being in the entire world, the Great Red was spanked by Orpheus, who had once exiled her from the dimensional crevice. This was the greatest humiliation to her. Aolo aolo aolo. There was another hysterical dragon roar. The violent energy fluctuation came head-on. Dustless and Orpheus' hair stood on end from the wind. Looks like there's no way to negotiate. Staring at the Great Red's scarlet eyes, Dustless's pupils turned rapidly. He could guess that she was currently enraged due to Orpheus' provocation. Dustless's body erupted with high-density chakra. A monster that was even more terrifying than the Great Red appeared. The golden evil light illuminated the entire dimensional crevice. The mighty Tengu helmet and the thick and simple armor were filled with vicissitudes of life. Even though the two long swords were not unsheathed, they were already terrifying. The aura that this giant exuded was even purer than the Great Red's. There was only complete despair. That demonic aura that wanted to destroy the entire world made even Orpheus, who did not know much about the world, treat it differently. So strong. Orpheus spoke softly. At this moment, she was standing together with Dustless. They were both in the complete Kinsusinu. Hence, she could clearly sense how strong Kinsusinu was. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Orpheus blinked and muttered to herself. No wonder he looked down on my strength. If he had such strength, I could have defeated that evil dragon too. Chakra is something that only I can enjoy. I can't lend it to you. Dustless shook his head when he heard that. He did not have the ability like Orpheus to lend his strength to whoever he wanted. Orpheus nodded and did not say much. Her black eyes flashed with a strange light, as if she had made up her mind to make some kind of decision. She had a serious expression on her face. Ao 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 ao. At the same time, the Great Red, who did not believe in superstition, spread her wings and flew high. Her wings flapped vigorously, and a storm that could destroy the world instantly erupted from her body. Any creature that was blown by that whistling wind could be dismembered. Such a weak attack is useless against the complete Kinsusinu. Facing the Great Red's angry attack, Dustless calmly responded. The complete Kinsusinu calmly pulled out the golden tachi of light. Chapter 1362. The strength or weakness of ninjutsu depends entirely on personal reasons. Dustless, who has experienced several worlds in succession, his complete form Kinsusinu, not to mention Madara, even Kagaya, the ancestor of chakra, Dustless's current strength is more than 10 times stronger than her. Therefore, any ninjutsu is destined to be different from ordinary people in Dustless's hands, and even has a dimensional upgrade. Whoosh! Complete form Kinsusinu, under the control of Dustless's will, raised the terrifying long sword. And with a gentle wave, the storm was easily suppressed. Puchi! The front part of the katana of light swept a golden cold light, and it was unstoppable through the wind and waves. The storm was easily defeated, and the dead silent dimensional crack was restored to normal again. Whoosh! Not only that, the golden cold light rushed toward the huge body of the Great Red at an extremely fast speed. What a terrifying edge! Seeing this, the huge dragon eyes of the Great Red suddenly shrank, and a rare flash of fear flashed in her eyes, and immediately flapped her wings and turned away decisively. This pervert is too dangerous. However, Dustless seemed to be able to predict the future. and came in front of the Great Red in advance, and a violent chakra broke out in his body. Whoosh! Several long black rods were shot in 6 different directions, and around Dustless and the Great Red, a dark red transparent enchantment suddenly appeared. "So you can't escape, my lovely mount." Dustless smiled, and immediately shouted, "6 Red Young formation." In a narrow space, Dustless's complete form Kinsusanu and the Great Red were facing each other, and he and the Great Red were sealed in a certain range of space. "He is strong and all kinds of strange and powerful moves are stronger. I don't even have an advantage in all aspects." The Great Red's eyes were low, and her momentum was obviously not as broad as Dustless's. Even though the power of both of them is also infinite, Dustless has an overwhelming advantage in strength and power. "Release Orpheus, and I'll be your mount." Lowering her posture, the Great Red said to Dustless, which is also a disguised show of weakness. "So it's like this." Dustless frowned. Just as he was considering whether to trick Orpheus, he suddenly felt that he was being hugged by someone. The delicate little hand was soft as if it had no bones. It was very tantalizing. "I don't want to be your mount. That dragon can be your mount, I can." At the thought of this, the naturally naive Orpheus paused. After thinking for a while he said, "I can be yours, just like you and Gilifia Lucifergus. You can touch me as you wish." F***ck, what the F***ck you peeked at me? Wu Chun, who was the first to react, didn't have a happy expression on his face. Instead, he had a gloomy and sad expression on his face. What a tragedy it was to be peeked at while having sex. Was I too engrossed to notice Orpheus' existence? Dustless's face darkened, and 100,000 F***ck army jumped around in his heart. "You." The Great Red was angry, and hot air came out of her huge nostrils. She opened her big mouth and breathed out a deadly wave of fire at the complete form Kinsusanu's head. "Orpheus is too shameless." Again? What kind of deep hatred is there between these 2 female dragons? Also Orpheus' appearance. Dustless glanced at Orpheus with a complicated expression, and saw that her eyes were full of light, and her hands were rubbing each other, as if she wanted to experience the feeling of the Great Red's perky butt. "She's incurable." Dustless shook his head, and looked at the incoming fire pillar calmly. He raised his right hand calmly, and a destructive ball condensed in front of his thumb. Ka. With the energy ball in Dustless's hand as the center, the surrounding void twisted rapidly, and a vortex appeared. This energy ball was like the mouth of a deep-sea spring, swallowing the surrounding space. The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red's eyes were attracted to it at the same time. "This guy." The Great Red was extremely depressed, and she could not help but complain in her heart. How many moves does he have that can tear or even shatter space? When he invaded the dimensional crevice just now, it seemed like he tore it apart with brute force. The Great Red felt very aggrieved. She had not done anything that offended the heavens, so why did the heavens send such a great demon to go against her? So powerful. Orpheus blinked her eyes, and she was a little more curious about Dustless's strength, origin, and identity. Wang Su's flash. As Dustless's voice fell, the golden energy ball stood out, and the moment it shot out, the light became countless times bigger. Boom boom boom. The golden light of destruction shattered the flame attack of the Great Red in an almost invincible manner, and the flames were shattered like raindrops by the void flash. Although it's called Wang Su's flash, under my unlimited infusion of Ryatsu, its power has been sublimated, and the essence of the void flash has transformed, and the power of Wang Su's flash is completely different. Dustless muttered to himself in an extremely calm tone. At the same time, he also realized that it was impossible to make the Great Red give up, and he could only temporarily control her by means of genjutsu. In this way, this boring farce would come to an end. The Rinnegan Sharingan stared at the eyes of the Great Red, emitting strange ripples, and the 9 Tomo also trembled, and the consciousness of the Great Red was quickly swallowed. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.